Comrades, I am Admiral Andre, and welcome back to Kerbal Space Program. It's late in the afternoon here at the Space Center, and the sun is heading towards the mountains there in the distance. But this is as good a time as any to begin working on the external fuel tank for our Perseverance shuttle. I'll first show you, of course, the images and all of that again that will guide us during our build of this tank. But then when we come back into the VAB, I'm going to show you a few additions and small modifications that I've made to the shuttle, just so that we're, all on the same page here. So see you in one moment, comrades. Right, comrades, so today we are looking at the external fuel tank, or the ET of the space shuttle stack. Now, we see a lot of images here. Of course, these are all the orange fuel tanks. In our case, of course, it will be the original, the white one. Now, all I want to see from this is basically, again, the scale compared to the shuttle itself. Because now that we have the shuttle, we can determine the scale of the rest of the stack. That's how I always do it. So if we have a look, oh, that's another Lego shuttle there. I must say that's an impressive one too. Let's find one that is relatively clear. This one perhaps? Yes. Okay, this shows of course the axes of the shuttle. That way is symmetric, but this way is not. Now we can see the bottom of the external fuel tank is this rounded shape here. And it ends basically just where the engines of the shuttle begin. So the bottom of the shuttle is hanging underneath the external fuel tank. So very important point there. So I would estimate here, based on that curve, the bottom is about there. So if we draw the line straight through, it's almost where the tail flap begins, right there. Then, of course, beyond that, it gets more pointy. So on the top, it ends in that, if we can see one of these pictures, it has this very sharp point right there. So we might recreate that with one of the antennas, perhaps. It's not necessary, of course, but just for the appearance, of course. So overall, it has a very nice, gentle, round shape on the top. Now, that's going to be very difficult to recreate. We can't, in fact, recreate it like that. It will be much more straight-edged there, but that's okay. Now, the other thing that I saw here, well, before we get to that, let's look at this picture we just had. That's one on the side. Same idea, though. Now, here we're seeing it from an angle from the back. That's why we can see the engines there. What I'm looking for is a sense of scale in terms of the vertical. So let's just see. There's a nice one. So now we roughly know where the bottom of the tank is. Now we need to see how much it extends to the top. Now here again, I'm just using my fingers and I'm just guessing about that much. And if we bring it down, it's about there, about in the middle of the second cargo segment. So that length is what it has to be beyond the nose of the shuttle. Then if we have a look, so it's about the middle of the first. Let me just confirm that. Yeah, slightly beyond the middle. Now, of course, I have to hold my breath when I'm doing this. Other than that, we see the curvature begins right there. So if I want to see what's that gap, it's roughly the length of the cockpit itself. Roughly. So from about there to there is about the same to there. More or less, more or less. I can just try again. Yes, more or less. So that gives me a rough scale there, so we know how long the tank needs to be. The other thing is, of course, if we look at the width of the tank, this is why we're going to use the obviously external tank, the 5-meter parts, because we can see the shuttle itself, the body of the shuttle, is narrower than the fuel tank. It's very clear here. And, of course, then we have the wing strakes, and their just before where the wing strake merges into the delta wing is where the line of the outer, or the outer line of the tank meets the wing. So that will also give us the right scale in terms of the width of the tank. So the tank has to show here when we look at it from the top of the orbiter. So the 2-meter parts are obviously too small. They fit inside the cargo bay. The 3-meter parts are too small because they will not go up to that point. They will stop somewhere there. And therefore the 5-meter parts are just the ticket. Of course, they're not orange again. Now, very interesting, as I was looking at these, this is now, I'm not sure, is this another Lego? Good grief, a lot of Lego ones. Actually, the Lego one does illustrate the point here. There's a pipe running right there. You can see it very clearly. On these images, you also see it there. Now, on the 5-meter parts, here we see it very well. If the picture will just load. There, so from about the nose of the orbiter straight down, there is a pipe running there. Now, the 5-meter tank parts do have these kind of external pipes on them. Obviously, it will be on both sides, but I will try to make it so that it is pretty much facing the orbiter here. Not straight on, but still at an angle. That might be difficult, but we can give it a go, just for the appearance again. So let's just focus on the external tank today and not initially worry about the boosters, the solid boosters. If there's time, we can look at those, but I think a shorter video is in order today because yesterday's one was heck of a long video. So, of course, still very much fun. Now, also, this is a good point here. Actually, while we're looking at this, this shows where the shuttle is actually attached to the external tank. Now, obviously, we'll use a decoupler on the bottom, but you can see right there, there are these struts by the nose, 2 of them on each, or 1 of them on each side, just like that, so they hold up the nose of the shuttle. So, another point. This is a very small image, but you can see them very clearly there. It's a flat structure like that. Now, for us, I don't think it will be practical to put it across horizontally like that. It will probably still be vertically because part of the decoupler always stays behind on the orbiter. I'll show you that. You probably have seen that already. So we don't want this big horizontal thing attaching to the bottom of the orbiter and staying there. So with that said, comrades, let's get into it. Right, so now that we've had a look at that, let us load up the Perseverance shuttle. So, of course, I'm still using the NASA flag there. Of course, we can't use 2 flags for one mission, so for now I think the NASA one is good. So, tutorial STS shuttle MHE load. Now, you'll see here I don't have the external additions of the jet engines anymore. I took them off because I found a much better way to test the shuttle, and I will show you that in a moment. We'll do a mock landing, I think. Other than that, I moved the wings out of the cargo bay. I was just not happy with that, so I moved them out just minusculely to where they don't show anymore. So they are not very far away from the body of the shuttle. They are still attached, of course, but at least this way they're not clipping into the cargo bay anymore. The other thing that I did was I replaced the back wheels with the large landing gears because the small ones or the medium ones we were using are not powerful enough. They either snap or they create such a shock on landing that other parts blew up. During one of my tests, this part actually fell off, even though the rest of the craft survived. I don't know, it's something to do with the stress tolerance, I think. So, the back ones work very well now. What I've also done is I have attached them to the body of the shuttle first, and then using the move tool I moved them out to the wing, so that it doesn't, compromise the structural integrity, because these landing gears still think they're attached to the body. And that's important because it gives us extra reinforcement. It actually does make a difference. Then, what else did I do? Oh yes, there's a few other things. Let me just put the volume back down again. There we go. Now, inside here, I took all the batteries out from the back. I remember I said this in yesterday's video. Doing that is not going to have a big difference, but it actually does. You'll be very surprised. So the batteries are all here now. It's the Z400s in 4-time configuration. So they're in there now. The other thing that I did was I took out the monopropellant tanks that we still had in the back. Oh, there's a few more actually. Let's take them out as well. And I placed them nowhere. I took them out and I didn't put them back in because we already have monopropellant in the front there. So 580 units is more than enough, comrades. Let's just make sure again. So the tank is still here and all the fuel, of course, where it needs to be. But that's it. There's no batteries back here. There's no monopropellant back here. So, of course, there's small batteries are here, but they hardly weigh anything. So I'm okay with leaving them there. And, of course, a small reaction wheel. But now if we have a look at the gap now between the center of mass and the center of lift. It's actually quite noticeable. This is much healthier. So that has made a difference, comrades. What else did I do? Oh yes, the other thing that I did was I used the rotate tool to move the oh, good grief. Don't touch it there. To move the elevons slightly down. So in actual fact, the result of that is the craft is always having a very slight downward pitch the whole time by default, because that helps to counter any tendencies for it to want to flip over. But now, of course, those tendencies are much reduced. It's just an extra safety measure there. So, yes, I still like the line of the wings there, and it flows nicely towards the back. And, of course, we have these elevons on the back, which I disabled all of the various functions there, as I should have done. I never did that in the spaceplane hangar. I just did it on the runway. And that's about it. I also flattened out the rotation that I applied on the wing strake because it's not so necessary anymore. So that's it, comrades. Now we're all on the same page again. There was something else I was thinking about in terms of the orbiter. And let me just search this. Space Shuttle air brake. Air brakes, aeronautics. There's some images coming up. Okay, here I'm looking at it's a very small image, but we can see, if you search, because you're not going to be able to see this now, but if you search Space Shuttle air brake, you'll see what I'm talking about. What happens when the Space Shuttle is coming in for a landing and it wants to slow down, the tail here, this flap of the tail basically splits in half. Of course, it's always in half, it's not breaking there, but then it opens up, either way from the center so that it creates more drag. Now, we can approximate that, comrades, but of course, we can't put anything onto the actual flap there. We could do it, as you can see right now, if I just find the right thing again. At any rate, you can see it does want to attach there, like that. But the problem is, when the tail flap moves, it's going to clip right through this other flap. So it'll be so obvious that it's just it's just attached on top of a moving part, which is not supposed to happen in KSP. Although you could do it. So we could come up with another solution and attach one of the Elevon 3s on the front before we get to the back flap here. Now I know this is a deviation from the real world, but this is a game, so we have to do what we have to do. So we use 2x symmetry without snapping, and let me clear my throat for a second. And then we just rotate this thing, so W and S. It actually fits quite nicely there. We could decide to do it somewhere there, so the black lines actually cover the other black lines. That kind of doesn't look too obtrusive there. And of course it will have a nice flat profile during the flight. And then when we are ready to slow down for landing, of course we just deploy and voila. So there it opens up. It has the same effect that the real thing has. Of course, the real thing that has this effect on the actual tail flap. But this is an approximation of that. So that's that. Let's put this on a key because clicking deploy in flight is not going to be practical. So custom 10 and toggle deploy. And voila, there's another thing done. Now, this thing doesn't have a flag. It's a pity. The only flag we'll see is that tiny little one on the cockpit, but oh well. So save this again. Now we can start with the tank. So close this thing and we'll start the construction here in the spaceplane hangar. Let's just take this and flip it upside down. Now we have to decide, let's turn all of this off, how we're going to attach the tank here. We can actually see the wing offset is not very obvious there, or the way that it was moved slightly out to not clip in the cargo bay. So I'm happy about that. So the obvious coupling method is the hydraulic detachment manifold. Now, we saw the real thing looked kind of like, I just use snapping, like that. But you see the bottom of that is always going to stay there. The top part of course falls off with the tank. But I don't know, you see it's floating in the air like that. What happens if we move it down? I don't want the top part clipping into the body of the shuttle because it's falling off. It's still floating in mid-air, sort of. It could work, it could work. But I think it's not necessarily important. Let's just have a look at the tank. Just take any 5-meter segment. Okay, now it floats in mid-air, you see? Oh, come on, let's zoom in. These little bolts don't even touch the tank, so that means we have to move the tank in as well. No, and then they clip into each other. No, that's not gonna happen. So we do not do it like this. We use it in the old-fashioned way. Again, Kerbal rules, I suppose. So I think somewhere down here, of course we want this to be relatively low because the shuttle hangs off from the main tank there. So let's put it in the middle of the monopropellant segment there, like that. I like it, it's balanced. Now we need to put a tank on the bottom, and I think it will probably have to be this one, just because using a big one is going to be a problem. Because it's going on the midpoint, you see. Zoom out. So that is too far. That's hanging off too far. We could move it a little. Actually, I want to rotate it because it has that pipe that I was talking about. Let's try this. I haven't done this before. Now, on which side was it? On the left from this perspective. Maybe one more. Now, of course, we're going to have to move this back, and this is, well, it's not too difficult. It actually works. It snaps because we're still using snapping. Snaps very nicely. So, I just want to have a look here. It's clipping into that thing. It's not too important, but let's just turn snapping off. There, so the bolts actually look like they're doing something. Right, so we're happy with that. Now just move back up and back out. So now we have that idea of the pipe there. We just need to move this thing up. Now I'm hoping, oh yes, not a problem, it will move all the way up. So let's do it so that it just touches the bolts there, like that. Now we know the bottom of the tank is roughly where the flap starts, so there. That doesn't give us a lot of room there. Now how are we going to round this thing off? That's always a problem. Always a problem. The obvious way, or actually the only way, is to use the 5-meter adapter part. There is only one of them. And throw it on there. Now I want to use this part on the top of the tank as well. So, not sure if we should do it there. The other thing now that's bothering me is this tank has black and white stripes, obviously. And we are looking for more of a white appearance. But then we won't have this pipe running down the side anymore, because this one has it, but then obviously if we add more than one, the pipes won't actually connect. But it's not important, I suppose. The thing that I used in that demo video of mine was just lots of these small segments, because they're all white, so that gives more of the appearance of the white external tank. Not sure what to do here. Maybe we should rather do that. Otherwise it's going to look like the shuttle is attached to the Saturn V, which we do not want. This is a totally distinct craft. So, just getting it back there again and turn off snapping. Like that. Now what do we do? Somehow we need to round this thing off. Fairings are out of the question because they meet at a sharp point, and we saw that is not a sharp thing. Well, it might just be necessary to do this. We'll probably have to move the bolts then a little bit as well, because it can't sit on the rounded part. Where's the center of mass? Let's put it above the center of mass. Maybe that's a smarter thing to do. So when it kicks the shuttle away, it's not going to tilt it. The tank will spin, but not the shuttle. Okay, that's good. I like that. Now let's try this again. Oh, good grief, zoom. It's so counterintuitive sometimes in the spaceplane hangar. Right, so now we've got that done. Let's move it up a bit more. Actually, let me have a look at the real thing again. We saw that side on image. Now, where is that side on image? Come on. Hey, that's Murphy's Law, I suppose. Well, there it is. Now, the thing that I was looking for is where does the curvature on the bottom of the tank begin? And it starts basically where the cargo bay ends. And then there are more struts to hold the shuttle as well. Okay, so the curvature of the tank must happen at that line right there. So actually we're quite close now. Like that. There we are. So now we have to end the thing off there somehow again. I think the easiest way is with an engine plate. That's what I used with my demonstration again. So that gives us just this nice smooth finish there. That's it. If we create another decoupler there or something, it's going to become too pointy, and we want this sort of rounded shape there. And it has to end at that exact line basically. We could even move this thing into the tank a little bit. No decoupling. Just move back in. There. So now it creates a nice bottom to the tank. Now obviously again, This adapter has black stripes on it, so there's nothing I can do about that. So unfortunately some of that will remain, but the bulk of it will be a white tank, so it won't look like a Saturn V clone, which is not what we want. So that's that. Now, comrades, let's continue the tank. Just keep adding more of these segments. The good thing is this texture of the tank is very nice. I really like how they did this, unlike the old textures that we used to have. Now, these do not change color, which is fine. But you remember those 2.5 meter parts that were these kind of shorter segments? They looked so ugly, good grief. Now, the length of the cockpit plus the nose cone is about the length that we are aiming for. So let's use a mock part there just to get the scale right. So maybe one more. And then of course the nose cone goes there. So that's the right scale. No more than that. So after that we begin our pointiness there. It's one way of putting it. So doing the same thing, because we don't have any other adapter parts for the 5 meter tanks. So that has to be that. And then now we have to keep in mind the thing should be that long there. Yay long, you know. Now how on earth are we going to end this off without being too long here? Maybe one of the Kerbal ones. That's nice. Okay, it's getting rather long now. Then maybe one of those nose cones. That looks nice, but it's too long, I think. I fear. Let's take that. So that's where the nose cone ends. So everything above this, and we put it here. You see, it's too long. It already goes into the 3rd segment. It should stop right there. So we're about 2 of the tank segments too long here on the top. Okay, well, that creates a bit of a situation. So we want to shorten that nose there. Now, how do we do that? I wish we had these parts but bigger. How do we do that? How do we do that? We're missing a thing there. What if... Oh, that's gonna look a bit ugly though. That's too small. We still need to get to the 2 meter parts. So we have to use that, I think. Therefore I am. What about this? No? Is there not a one that goes to 2 meters? No, but that's 3 meters. No, we have to do that. I suppose so. Okay, well. So that's a fixed thing. We can't do anything else there. So now we need to make the nose shorter without making it too stubby. Now, how do we do that? That doesn't fit quite as nicely. This is even longer. I think we might have to accept that, comrades. I think we might have to. If I take one of these tank segments out, then this part of the tank is too short. But maybe that will be okay, actually. It's a compromise. So then this is too short and this is slightly too long, but overall it's not bad. So let's look at it now. Now we're just slightly beyond the 2nd segment. You see, which other YouTuber would worry about this? I don't know if there's one of them. So I pride myself on paying attention to the details. We need a shorter nose. How on earth are we going to do that though? There is no other adapter that goes from a 5 meter to a 3 meter part. And I'm not using these airplane parts. So what do we do? What do we do? We could use a fairing possibly here, but it will have to be shorter than this. Well, let's try it at least, you know, let's give it a go. And give it something to attach to. Anything. Actually, we can put some reaction wheels here. If this works now. Because we're gonna need them. There's always going to be a lot of offset here. So now build the fairing and somehow get rid of that, please. Thank you. And build the fairing again, and they do not attach. Because you see, we're not there yet. We're not there yet. We still need the last nose cone. But if we can skip the rest of it, then we can get the length right. Oh, please, come on. Thank you. It listened, and it looks great. Yes, oh, good grief. This is working out. This is working out. So now if we take the whole length here again, and we attach it, we don't attach it, we just keep it underneath there in line with the nose. And we are just over the half of the second segment. Now see, comrades, that is what Admiral Andre does. So I feel proud of myself there. Of course, we do not make this staged. It is a fixed structure. And we could, what else could we put in here? Batteries maybe? It's not necessary because the engines create electricity anyway. Nah, don't need anything. I could move the cones slightly down because I see they're not joining perfectly there. No, that's not gonna look good. Build it again. If we've built something once, we can do it again. And voila. So, we are getting somewhere. We're getting somewhere. Now we need to attach the other struts and things that will hold the tank to the shuttle. Or vice versa. So first of all, if I go back to the segment to see, this is again the side view. Where are those struts attaching on the front? So they are between the windows and the RCS system. So right about there, that's where we need to put them. Also, do they angle? They don't look like they angle. So now we need to get in here. Now this you cannot do in the VAB. If you try and build a mirror symmetry strut in a VAB, it's not gonna work. I've tried it 1 billion times. That might be an overestimate, but it doesn't work. You only get one strut then connecting. The other one just disappears. Okay, so there's of course now the wheel in the way, so we're just gonna attach to the outside of the wheel. But that creates the image there. You see, it's got that nice little V segment there that attaches to the shuttle. So now on the back we have to do something as well, because from the tank to the bottom of the shuttle there is a angled strut there. Wait, now I'm confused here. Back to the wing. So from thereabouts to, oh good grief, it's because the image is totally got a different perspective, like this. There we are. So now if I look back at the image, and no, the thing is still upside down. I need to see the perspective matched. Okay, now it moves from about there to about there. Now where would that be? That is about, well, it's not quite the end of the first segment from the bottom, and then to where the end of that segment is. Oof, good grief. Sounds confusing. And it's about 45 degrees on the tank. Not sure. Somewhere there maybe. And there to There. Now the real thing is a lot thicker than that, so it looks a bit nicer than this. They've got these thick pipes almost attaching there. Then they've also got one that attaches to the shuttle from just beneath that point. It's so difficult. Somewhere there. To there-ish. Like that. It creates this kind of line there. Although I'm thinking. There's a few things we need to move here. The bottom of, or the decoupler thing needs to be at the very edge there. Then this has to move back, of course. Like thusly. And then it will look a bit nicer. I think though, for the scale of the strut that we have, we should not make it so far offset. It should be more like there, I think. And then something of that nature, although that's a bit angled. I don't want it to be angled. Okay, so there-ish, yes, I'm liking that. Now again, this has to be on that line, roughly, or just before that. Nice, okay, I like that. I think again it's a good compromise, comrades. If you see the side image, you'll see what I mean there. It's a thick pipe segment there, but we can't recreate that. At least not as a strut. So that is that in terms of attaching the main tank. Let's just see, is there any other detail here that we need? Oh yes, of course. Well, there's two more. The one is now we don't have the pipe. Now in the old versions of Kerbal Space Program, you had to have a fuel pipe that ran the whole length of the tank here from each segment to the next one, so that you could make sure that the fuel tank drains upward. In the older versions, of course, it drained downward, but nowadays it drains evenly throughout the tanks, but we still want the center of mass to shift upward during the burn, because that creates more stability for the engines. If it goes downward, the center of mass will shift, and then of course the thing will flip over. So we do want it draining upwards. However, we are not going to use all of these fuel tanks, so some of them will be empty during the flight. It's too much weight and too much fuel. We don't need so much. And so we can't really do this until we see the whole stack in action. But in that case, we just use fuel flow priority. Then we don't need these pipes diverting the fuel up. You just create less priority on the upper tanks and more on the lower ones, and then it will burn the lower ones first and move segment by segment upwards towards the top. So also a good thing to use many small segments like this, because the shift is very gradual through each of the tanks of the center of mass. Now, oh yes, the top. We want this little sharp point here, just because we can. Hey, what about this? Fly-by-wire avionics thingy. I never use this ever. What is it? Is it a probe core? It's more stability assist. Well, it kind of does look nice though. Maybe we could use it. I cannot honestly say I've ever used that part before. Maybe in a very old version of the game, but certainly not recently. Now, of course, we need a structure to get to the top there. Okay, I'll fix any offset there. Let's just build it out, because the move tool is not going to move that far. And this is negligible in terms of weight. Great, so where is that thing now? We lost it. No, there it is. So in this case, snap to that, and now we can play around with it. I don't want this eye there. That's HAL 3000 or 2000 or whatever its name, 9000. So we don't want that. We want it like that, I think. Yes, yes, yes. So we need to get rid of one of the, or do we? One of the segments. Nah, it's built into it like that. And it sits nicely in the middle. So there we go. Now we have a nice point there as well. And that should not break off because it was designed as an aircraft part. So save, for goodness sake. Do not neglect. Now, I think that'll do for this episode, comrades. We shouldn't have all of them 3-hour episodes. So in the next one we will build the exterior solid fuel boosters, and then that will be that for the stack. But then of course the phase of testing begins, and that will be another challenge, believe me there, comrades. Like Trump says, believe me. Oh yes, I also noticed this thing here, very funny. When I edited yesterday's video, this looks like a face here, you know, like one of those emojis with a straight face. Very funny, actually. I want to see if we can't do something about that. Although we don't need to really. Maybe add some character, you know, a Kerbal quirk to the thing. I just need a picture of the shuttle aft. Shuttle aft, yes, obviously it's because our shape is round. Their shape had a flat top and an angled bottom and a round side and the other straight side. But it kind of does look like that. It just looks thicker actually, so maybe we need 2 of these. Although I'm sure that's not going to change the fact that that still looks like a face. Now it looks like a face with 2 lips there. I just can't win. Oh, it's because it's also angled. No. Do we not want to try it again? Okay, it's not quite cooperating there. Snapping it to that is not going to be a viable solution. Or is it? It is. It does snap to that other one. But now it really looks like a face, don't you agree? The one is looking to the left and the one is looking to the right. Oh well. You see, this also looks, well, okay, you can't see this image now, the aft of the shuttle. That does look like a little face with 2 eyes. Only their one looks like it's got a square mouth because it's even wider than this. I don't know, comrades, you'll have to tell me about this. This is like when you're flying the shuttle back and you are obviously looking at it from this kind of perspective, so you're passing through the atmosphere. And then you see these little faces looking at you, and it's like just straight face, you know, no emotion. They're just judging you silently to see if you can get the thing back in one piece. Maybe I'll leave it like that. Let me know what you think about this, the hidden face. What if we make it white? That's a little bit less obvious, but now it looks like they've got tape over their mouths, so they're not allowed to speak. What's the name of this called where you see faces? I was playing Surviving Mars the other day and one of the radio stations mentioned this, where of course people saw the face on Mars. I can't remember what it's called now, but seeing faces in inanimate objects. Anyway, maybe I'll play Surviving Mars also one day. We'll see. There's a big update coming out giving tunnels between the domes, so I'm looking forward to that. Anyway, let's save here again. Save, and you shall get this in the Dropbox as usual, and I am very happy with this build. It's looking exactly the scale that I wanted, and I always look forward to your comments, comrades. And you know, the main thing for me, oh yes, the other thing we still needed to see from the top. You see, that does look more like the real thing, where the side of the tank meets the strake here. It's a little bit too narrow still. It should meet it somewhere down there, but this is the biggest tank we've got, so it's the best solution we have. But anyway, what was I gonna say now? Blank. Oh, maybe, I don't know. I think that's what I was gonna say. It's like, if the main thing for me is just if somebody else enjoys the craft that I build, then that's a great thing. So then all of the madness is worth it. So yes, comrades, save again and see you next time. Have a safe landing and enjoy your weekend. You deserve it, comrade. You are worth it. So says Admiral Andre, and you can take his word, because he's a reliable fellow.